So I'm Sarah, I'm from Cork, and I am a self-employed businesswoman. So I've had two long-term relationships, and in both relationships I wanted kids. Like I've always wanted kids since like small age. I've always wanted to be a mom, and I always thought there was something wrong. But everyone, I think when you're younger, people are just like, oh, that's just in your mind, and don't be so silly, it'll all happen. So I did think I was in Australia, and I did think at that stage, I was like, something is not right here. And then I came home and I actually went to my doctor and I was like, look, I think something is wrong. And he was like, okay, come back when your cycle starts. It never started because I was pregnant with Luke at the time. So once I had Luke, I think every doubt in my mind just disappeared, because I was like, well, obviously nothing's wrong, and everyone was right, and I have him now, and it's brilliant. So I think always inside, like, my gut always told me something was wrong, but then again, when you've got like everyone around you being like, don't be so silly, and I just think it's in people's nature where they're just like, it's an Irish thing. I definitely think, I know they're like, geez, you're very young, like it'll happen, and you'll be fine. And but I think yourself. I think most women know themselves when something's not right. So I think I knew from pretty young age that something, like I would say 23, 24, that something wasn't right. But then again, when I had Luke, I was like, sure, what could be wrong? Like, we've had him, and that was it. So I have PCOS, and I would have very irregular periods, and then they started to get worse. So I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this, because I was saying, she's very young, and she was saying like, oh, that she's just got diagnosed with PCOS, and I was like, don't let it go, because I think when you're younger, you just let it go. But because my periods were so irregular, and like in the last year and a half, 2 years, now I know there's COVID weight and everything else, I've gained a little bit of weight, and there was just loads of these factors coming into my life, and everyone was going, that's the PCOS. So when we tried to conceive, and there was months where I thought I was pregnant, and I think about 3 or 4 months in, I was like, something's wrong, and everyone kept going, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. So I'm going to say about a year and a half ago, well, we had always talked about kids, and although some other people needed persuasion, I knew I wanted them. So I think about a year and a half ago, I knew about 4 months in there was something wrong. And I know people say, like, I've heard friends of mine saying, oh, it took me a year to conceive my second child, it took me a day to conceive the first child, and it's so different. But I really do think you just know in your gut. Like, I just knew, I was like, there's something not right. Never. Like, and I felt so much guilt, because when I researched it and I looked it up, I felt so guilty for people who came to me and said, I'm suffering with that, that's what we're going through. Or, they wouldn't have heard the phrase either. And because I have friends and family who have one child, and I'd have been like, when's the next? When's the next? What are you waiting for? Are you better off? And I don't think anyone ever stops to think that it's an issue. It's not that the person doesn't want the second child. So I'd never heard of it. So when I did hear of it, then I actually felt a bit silly, because I felt like people don't understand that if you've got one child, it doesn't automatically mean that you're going to have a second, or that it's going to be an easy journey. Got emotional now, but I think now, we've been up here a couple of months, and I think it's only now that people are understanding it from our point of view, that secondary infertility is real, and it's hard. I don't think it's even people around us. I think, like, even like my little boy Luke, like, it's like, Mom, when am I going to get a brother? When am I going to get a sister? And you're looking at him being like, you can't really tell a child this, like, but it's just so hard. And then you're just wondering, will you ever give him one? Will it ever happen? And it's hard. Secondary infertility is real, and it is hard, and it's not spoken of enough. But I had gone to my own doctor, just kind of like, saying that I think that something was wrong. And it was originally about the PCOS. And when I went to the gynecologist, she said, okay, so like, I've lost weight. Like, I had lost like 7 stone. So when we went to the gynecologist, she said, okay, what are the issues? And I said, okay, first one is the irregular periods. Second is my infertility. The weight, look, we can deal with that. That's not major. So she was like, okay. And then I was saying, every month, the kind of delay in periods, and all this, gave her all the symptoms. And she said, okay, so if we stand in a room, and she was like, there's a room for fertility, there's a room for weight, there's a room for controlling your periods, the pain and all of this, what's the first room you're going to go to? And I was like, fertility. Like, there's no two ways about it. We actually had looked at a good few clinics, and I don't know what it was. And I was like, there's this place after opening up, because obviously I've heard of therapy before, but like I hadn't even realised there was a fertility clinic. And I was like, oh, it keeps popping up. And the more I spoke about it, the more I seen, like the more, but it wasn't even on the phone, but it was just little things like, and it mightn't have been therapy fertility, but it could have been like an ad for therapy, or I'd walk down the street and I'd see a leaflet or something. And I'm like, oh, I was drawn to it. I was just drawn. And then I was like, okay, I think we need to go for a consultation. And everyone was like, why would you go to Dublin? Like, you're in Cork. Why would you go? And any couple that I know that are coming here, that are coming from, we'd say, wherever, say the same thing. It's the time that you get with your partner, coming and going. Because whether it's good news or not so good news, you have, for us anyway, we've got 2.5 hours before my mom or his mom, they'll be killing me for talking about them, but like they're identical and they'll be onto you straight away, you know, like, and I live across the road from my mom as well, so like if I pull in home to digest whatever may have happened in the appointment or the scan, you know, you don't get time. So we get to digest, we get to make decisions before anybody else has involvement, and I think it's really important as a couple to have that time. So that's how we ended up here, and we haven't regretted it. Do you know what? I think at the start we came in and, you know, myself and Keith were talking about this, and we were saying like the staff were so, like, they were so jolly, but they were so lovely, and it was such a home feeling in here. Like, you didn't feel like you were in a fertility clinic and that was, like, I can't comment on anywhere else, but it was from what people had told, you know, what you hear people say, and, you know, waiting rooms don't talk to each other, whereas we came in and everyone was like, do you want a cup of coffee? Do you want like a glass of water? And, you know, the people in the cubicle next to you were like chatting, and it's just a different vibe completely. And what another thing I suppose, because social media is so big and you watch people, you know, who have infertility and who suffer with it, and you're listening to their stories. So what I expected was not what we got, because what I expected was, you know, like, how would I put it now? I don't want to say cold, but you expect what you see on everyone else's social media, what you see online, and that's not what we got. And I think what I had forgotten through the whole process is that the lads and the girls here know what they're doing. Like, it's their job. They do it every day. Because I remember at the start when we left and we had a plan, and I was like, but they haven't told me what's going to happen or the dates. And I was like, why aren't they telling me the dates? And Keith was like, will you relax? And I was like, we were driving back the road, and I remember I was like, I'm fuming. I was like, they're just not listening to me. And then the girl rang me. She's like, I can't remember her name. She's like, why do you need to know what's happening in 4 weeks' time? And she was so right, because we got all this medication and it was overwhelming collecting all this meds. But all of a sudden, she's on the phone being like, and it's like talking to your friend. She's like, relax a little bit, like, and you know, like, I get, like, I suppose where I was coming from was, I was like, she hasn't told me what I need to do now in 5 weeks' time, or what this injection is for. But it was only as we went through the process, both of us agreed that how it's done is how it should be done. You know, like, they don't tell me what I need to use until I need to use it. You don't get told, and it's right, because why are you telling me what to do in 3 weeks' time? Because I'm going to forget it, you know. So I think that, you know, anyone that is going through it, or like that starts out and you're here, I just feel they handle it so right, because they're just like, why would I worry you with what you need to do in 3 or 4 weeks' time? And I think as well that you're, you know, even the demos online of how to do the injections, like, you know, it's a person. It's not this robot. It's a person showing you exactly what you need to do, and it's not overwhelming. That's the thing, is that they make it very calm, even though I'm not a calm person. So I'm not in control, but they've made me feel like, you know, you can relax there, because they know what they're doing, you know. Like, I was petrified of these injections because, again, of what you read, what you see. And I remember the first injection that we took, and I remember the two of us were so anxious. We done the injection, we went and sat down, and I was like, that's it. I was like, is that it? But then obviously as you introduce other injections along the way, and it's I would say I was tired from it, and very emotional. I was really, really emotional, but I do think that it's not that it's made out to be a lot worse. I think that don't watch videos, like don't go on and look at it, like just, you know, take yourself out of the equation and just do your own journey. But I think that the whole process of the injections themselves, they were fine. They weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. They were, you know, as the days go on, of course your tummy's getting harder, it's a bit bruised, it's sore, but it's not extremely painful, you know what I mean? It's not as bad as an eyebrow wax. Like, I'm like this with an eyebrow wax, so the injections were okay. I think because Keith's sperm is perfect. In Sarah's head, this is the image. His sperm is perfect. We have eggs, like I have eggs, I'm ovulating, this is brilliant. And I suppose at that moment, I had thought in my mind that all we needed was somebody to get the eggs, get the sperm, make some embryos, and that was going to be it. And I don't think it was anyone's fault that I had that expectation. I think it's just how I felt. Because in my head, and maybe it brings it back to that, I didn't think, you're still thinking in your mind, I'm not dealing with this, that this is not us, we don't need to do IVF, and it's, you know, we just need a little bit of help. It's not that we actually need IVF like someone who's going through infertility. And I think it's that moment when egg collection is done and the process after it that you realise, no, actually, this is real. And I think that was the moment for me anyway, that I was like, this is actually us and this is actually happening. So with egg collection, I thought, right, we're going to get the eggs, he's going to give a sample, they're going to make babies, and we're going to have loads in the freezer. Because I remember talking to people being like, did you put 2 in or did you put 1 in? You know, my aunt had done IVF 18 years ago, and she still says she's got some in the freezer, and she's like, my embryos are 18 years old, and then she's like, they're probably not even still there. But I remember she was saying, they put 3 in. She's like, each time we put 3 in, and I was going like, we'll just put the 2 in, we'll put the 2 in. And we done egg collection, we got 23 eggs, 7 fertilised. And I will never, ever, ever forget the portal, the message came up in the portal. And that's another thing actually as well that I really, really like, because when you get news that might not be so great, I don't think you want to talk to somebody at the end of the phone. I don't think you want to talk to, you know, Mary on the phone and she's put in a position, or he, whoever. You don't want these people. You don't know these people. Like, obviously everyone in here is like family when you walk around, but it's in that moment when you don't get the news you're expecting, you want your family and you want your partner and you want to deal with it. So I'll never forget the message came through in the portal, and I read it and it said 7 had fertilised, and my heart broke, because I was like, this, and again, oh, you have 7. But I knew at that stage something was wrong, because, you know, they say 70-80% normally fertilise. So we should have been looking at about 16. So to go from 16, to lose 16 and to be left with 7, I was like, something's wrong. And that Thursday, I closed the front door, and I remember saying to him, do not let anybody inside the front door. I don't want to hear from anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. Don't let them in. And again, like, my mom's, I'm not joking, like, I live here, she lives here. And I remember thinking, like, please just don't come over, just don't talk to me, because I knew from a perspective of someone who's not going through IVF or doesn't understand secondary infertility, and some of my family and friends still don't understand it, they're not going to say the right things and they don't mean anything by it. So in that moment I was like, I just don't need to talk to them, because they're going to go, should you have 7? And that's what people said, should we have 7? That's brilliant. I knew it wasn't brilliant. I knew something was wrong. And then that weekend, I just didn't function. I cried and cried and cried my heart and soul out on the Thursday. On the Friday, the Saturday, I kind of pulled myself together a little bit. And then on the Sunday, I was just like, please, God, I have something there tomorrow. But I had set myself up, there was going to be none. And again, people asked me why, and I was like, okay, so the statistic is 70 to 80%. Obviously, you can't always go off that. 70 to 80%. And then I was like, okay, we made like 29% is what we got. So if they're talking about 40%, we're looking at nothing on Monday or Tuesday. To be fair, the girls in the lab were like, we'll contact you Monday, we will let you know where we stand. And again, Monday, the message came through. I didn't sleep a wink on Sunday night, and it was that there was only one embryo fit for the freezer. And I remember we actually had an argument over this, like, as in that moment. And obviously your partner's your person, but he was all about the positives. Whereas I was like, this is terrible. Like, we only have one. We literally have one chance. And it's you don't expect, how can, someone actually passed a comment to me and said, I don't think you mentally prepared yourself for this. And I said, well, how do you mentally prepare yourself for it? Because how do you? Like, how do you prepare? Nobody can prepare you for it. So I think egg collection was a big eye-opener that, one, we genuinely were going through it, and for our family and friends, they opened their eyes. I remember his mom and my mom both went, because they were talking about put in two and put the rest in the freezer, and all of a sudden you've one. You don't have, and I know we're very lucky to have one, and I know that, but it was still, we have one. The wait is hard, like the waiting game for egg collection. To start, I think when you start, then the injections process goes really quick. You get to egg collection and you're like really on a high, and then the wait starts, and then it's hard. It's hard, but I think not being in control, and I am a control freak. Like, I like to be in control of everything. Even if he books a holiday, I'm like, this is a disaster, like, because I have no control over it. Like, I'm not. I just like to take charge. I can't control this. I can't control it. Your every, scan appointment, you're afraid of your life in case. Okay, what if, like, the whole way up, you're thinking, what if it's not ready? What if my body's not ready? What if we can't go ahead with a transfer? What if? And that drives you absolutely bananas, like mental. So being in control it's really hard. And I think you cannot be in control. Like, you have no choice in this. It's, it's down to your body, and sometimes your body just doesn't do what you need it to do, and that's okay as well. But it's hard when you want to be in control. Every trip has been together. I've not done any part of this on my own. Every single trip we've, worked around work, we've worked around each other. Get off nights at 6 a.m, we travel up. We've done the whole part together. So we definitely, as a couple, I would say, we've had our arguments, but we have come together, as in I feel like that we are on the journey together. I think that's really important, because obviously in our situation, even though, Keith's sperm is perfect, and the issue is on my side, it's not, in our relationship, it's not that it's my issue, it's ours, and no matter what the outcome, it's our issue, and we'll deal with it together. And I think, like, the highlight for the two of us so far is that we can conceive. We have a chance. There's an embryo. We have one. Luke keeps calling it Magnum in the freezer, because that's how he eats his Magnums. And he was like, you put Magnum in your belly today? And I was like, no. And like, yeah, it's made us appreciate, I suppose, like, even my nieces and nephews, and hearing other people's pregnancies. And I know for some that's really hard, but I think that we're in a position where I'm like, you know what, it's when someone can bring a child into the world, it's an amazing thing. And although our journey is a little bit harder and it's more of a struggle, I think we know we will conceive. When we'll conceive, I don't know. Will this be our embryo? Will we have to go again? I don't know, but I know that we have a chance. And I think when you have that little bit of faith, whereas I think prior to this, I wouldn't have had much faith. I'd have been like, no, sure, I can't. I know myself, I can't. So I think that is the biggest thing for us, is that we can and we will conceive. It's just when it's going to happen. No two journeys are the same. I would say, don't look at anyone else's journey for hope in your own. I know that sounds a bit silly, but I think that you need to just walk your own journey. You need to walk your own path. You need to do what's going to work for you, because no two people are the same. No two bodies are the same. I remember when I said we had 7 fertilized, I had heard so many stories then. Like, I heard about, I had my friend and she'd six, and I was kind of going, oh God, or I know my friend, she only got 7 and 5 fertilized and she had 4. You have to just switch off. I know people were telling me, join this WhatsApp group and join this Facebook group and join here and there, and I didn't, because I don't want, and it's not because it's support, obviously, but at the end of the day, you have to walk your own path. You have to do it yourself, do it with your partner, and be with them. I think him coming to the appointments, even though he's not needed at some of the scans and he's not needed, like, I can inject but I left him do every injection. I didn't do one single injection myself because he is also a part of that process. So I think a really positive part of it, I suppose, is that we did it together. It's something we've done together. People make babies together, we just do a little bit different, but we've done it together. So I think that's a huge part of this journey. But, include your partner, include them, no matter what part of it, include them in it. As I said, there's been times where we've literally killed each other, and he'll remind me more, because it's more me than him, but he'll remind me, like, Sarah, this is something we're doing together. He was like, if it was my issue, we'll deal with it together. So I think that include each other, and when you do that, when they're at every appointment where possible, and when they're doing the injections and they're going to the pharmacy to collect the meds, they're all simple things. Or if a message comes through in the portal, they're the first person you ring to tell them if they're at work, this is what's happening. So yeah, I think that's a really positive thing.